Hello, and welcome to the third edition of Fullstack for Noobs, where Salih and myself walk you through how you can use the next generation of software tools such as Kiro to build a full stack application from scratch. Welcome, Salih. Hello.
We have a bit of a setup and everything. So first of all, we were a bit late because of that, because today we're actually in the same room and we are going to build each other. So when I look at this direction, I'm actually looking at Ricardo right now, and we try to do the camera setup and everything in place. But it will be cool. It will be cool to operate from here all together. I'm really excited about this week, but before we move forward, let's see what you think about last week.
Yeah. Okay. So if we do have some audio gremlins, apologies, we are muting as we go along to try and reduce the cancellations. In the first episode, we walked about we took a step back and we focused on intent. Okay. So what are we going to build? In the second episode, we switched to Salih starting the process of building the front end. Okay. And we looked at why we start from the front end. And in this episode, we're going to continue building the front end, building from what Salih started in the first one, which you can go back to previous episodes. Actually, what I did is since the last video on Thursday, I actually followed the same instructions that Salih did. And I actually produced almost identical output. And obviously, in this non-deterministic era, it's not going to be exactly the same, but it's close, right? I got the same kind of game, the same layout, the same kind of similar Git commit. So Salih's steering file really did the business for me. So that's where we're at. We haven't done any more. We're at the stage where we left it at the end of the last episode. And so now we're going to carry on. So Salih, I'm going to hand it back to you. So again, if we do have any audio gremlins, apologies. We'll be muting and trying to manage that as best we can.
All right. So I'm really excited about this week because now we will hopefully see the game in action. Let me share my screen, and hopefully we will also see that my problems from last week with the screen sharing is fixed. I updated my version of macOS and everything, and I've been told it should fix everything. I believe we are good to go. So right now we already see what we have over here. We started off with the project. The first thing that we will do is to, of course, show you what we have built so far, which was a super basic game of guessing a number. The guessing a number game had happened. Okay, it's not here because the project is under another folder. Let me go to this. What's going on? I will just write it myself. I wanted to get lazy and use autocomplete, but it didn't work. Anyway, so right now, if we run the application, and let me open up my new window. So if I go to this, you can see that we have the number guessing game. It says like 1 to 100. So I'm just saying 500. It says write a valid one. 100 is too high. 5 is too low, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to waste any time by playing this game. The reason I built the game is because we told that we are going to build a game at the end of the day in our prompts. So the next thing that we will do is we will actually bring in the gaming logic. But before we move into the gaming logic, we have to understand what we are going to build. We will have tiles, and each tile is going to create a board together. So what I'm going to ask is,
yes. So I'm just going to jump in there, Salih. I'm going to put my hand up every time I want to speak. I'm going to put my hand up, okay? Because
you can mute me actually.
I can. I have power.
You can jump in. Yeah.
Okay. Because in the first episode, we looked at what the game would look like actually from a graphical perspective. So I'm actually going to show you and remind people what actually this looks like. The idea is we want to build a game that looks something like this. So Salih, this is like what we're aiming for, right? And we've got some graphic assets, but again, these are more like ideas at this stage, right? We might want the AI coding assistant to come up with an idea. So this is kind of like the tile-based game is kind of going to look something like this, right? So let's just go back to that, and I'll stop sharing.
I cut the video. I think it will be perfect when this pause is just removed. But here's the cool part. I really like what you've done. We can do multiple things. One thing that we can do is to actually use your design as a component suggestion to the Kiro, because Kiro can accept not only prompts, but also the image helpers as well. However, I really don't want to pull in that full image and say, build me this. I want you to understand we will build components first, because for backend developers, component means something different. For front-end developers, every UI element that you see on the screen that is generally reusable, we call them components. A button is a component in your design system, for example. So when we build those tiles, will be available for everything. For example, in case we want to use it for showcasing a reward, we can use the same tile, because from the perspective of the component, it is dumb. It has no idea about what's going on and what's purpose until we tell it. Yes.
Okay. So if I understood right, okay, whilst if I'm, for example, maybe let's say a designer who's using Kiro to kind of create a game, you wouldn't necessarily care about the full finished picture. You actually need to take that picture and try and decompose it into sort of the smallest component, which you called a component, which is what we're going to get React to actually build with this, is it shadow something, a library? So effectively, we need to start there and then trying to decompose that into the constituents. So a tile, which is a hexagon, maybe an icon that fits on there, maybe the background, the square it fits in. Those are the kind of things we're talking about.
Exactly. So from the perspective of the project, it is going to be a hexagon tile. It's not going to be called like board element or something. It's going to be a hexagon tile. It will have different color values and so on. We can even make it more granular. Like we can just draw a shadow oriented hexagon, and we can say that I will pass you in the color later on, and the color logic will come from the board as well. It's totally up to you to define and decide. From this perspective, what I'm going to do now is it's up to you. Either I will design or
Yeah, so it brings up a question for me, obviously, as a front end noob, right? So how can you use Kiro to help you understand how to decompose and create components? So the idea is that obviously I know in my head what the game needs to look like, but I don't know how to maybe think about it from a component perspective. So is this something that we can use?
absolutely. That is one of the great advantages of using actually AI coding assistants. You can provide your even slides. Like you can pull in the PDF, put the slide and say, like, take page 5 and create a design system for me. These are really great things. You can also use any other AI design tool. Like right now, for example, Figma is very get in the summer. So you can put that into Figma and tell Figma to turn this into the design system. It will create a design system, and you can use the Kiro powers and get the design system into the action as well. For us, the important point is actually it's about the software development as well, right? You have to create components that are usable. I'm not saying over engineer, but at the end of the day, we will have maybe 50 tiles. So we want to do a for loop and recreate everything all at once, or do we want to define identities for the items that we have? So the system, so the drawing mechanism, your GPU, whatever you want to call it, your browser can take advantage of the mechanisms that has been provided to you by the framework to draw these efficiently. Because I always tell the same thing. We are very spoiled with our devices. Like I have this, you have your phone, everything is super machine. And comparing to like maybe 10,000 of this, we went to moon. And now where we're at, like we can run, this is sometimes sad. We have to, yeah, unfortunately, we have to not over engineer, but we have to think deeper. That is why instead of just throwing the design that you have here and tell AI to draw one by one, pixel by pixel, I do the opposite. So can continue that way.
Awesome. Sounds good. Let's carry on then.
All right. So first thing that I will do is to actually, we can do 2 things. You can send me the slide and I will just take the component and pull it in and give some information, or I can use my imagination as well. It's up to you.
Okay, I'm going to send it to you on Slack.
Okay, luckily we don't share my screen, so that's good. Right now, both of us are muted, but we are working on to get you the design as soon as possible. Hey. What is that? I have my screen open here for our Slack. Nice, nice. Today I want to have at the end the board mechanism directly in place. I want to have the components. I want to have different levels of questions, or maybe even a hovering logic to showcase a question just for the sake of having a tile. And I want to actually work towards moving step by step into the next ones as well. So for example, we will have The board, whenever we click, the rest will be faded. When you enter it, it will go to the next one. You can select and you say everything that you would expect and everything that would make the user's lives easier. And everything here and everything that I mentioned, I am going to design, download design. I'm going to implement from the gamer perspective rather than someone else.
And while you're doing that, whilst you're getting the file, okay, ready for it, I guess with the thing I've got in my mind as a front-end developer, yeah.
You can really as well.
Okay, yeah. So as a front-end developer, how do you know how much information you, because obviously the border element is one thing, but you touched upon some things around what happens when you hover over a tile, how does it interact? Does it glow or does it do something? Because that certainly is in the actual design, right? The design is as you hover over a tile, it will expand so that there's some tactile feedback, and also it will play a little sound. But how far now do we need to worry about that? Or can we think about that later?
I think with the AI right now, we complain a lot about SDLC, like software development lifecycle, that we forget about why it is there. And it is very important and valuable for us, for everyone. When we think about building software, we need to think about how we can make logical steps. And at the end of each step, what we have as a meaning. I don't like, since we are vibing, we are not spec-driven right now. I'm not going to mention anything about the hover effects and so on. Right now, my goal is simple. I want to draw hexagons that we see here, and I want to showcase it on my screen with 3, 4, 5 variants. That's it. And I want to do it in one iteration. So I need to explain to my ID in the most meaningful way.
Okay, let's do it then.
So first thing that I will do is I have the design here and I don't have my screen. So let me share my screen.
While Sally's sharing his screen, I'm going to be trying to follow along in my own IDE.
If you do a better job, I will be sad. Next week, you won't see me. So right now, here's what I have the design here. I just dropped it here. I will start off by saying that here is a design of page that I have visioned for the game. I would like you to start the development of it. Now that I'm thinking out loud, I'm thinking how I should tell this properly. When I do this alone, I don't care. I'm like, I can make like dumb sentences and I know AI will understand what I'm reading.
Okay, but we said a few seconds ago that we're going to start off with just the tile, right? So are we asking it here just to create the tile, or are we asking it to create the... Yeah, God, who knew audio could be so difficult in 2026? Yeah, so we talked about just creating the component tile. So in the prompt here, we've uploaded the whole design. We've said, here's the design we want to build. Okay, we're going to start. Okay, so you're going to add this in the prompt. So that's awesome. This is that come up.
Oh, okay. What? We are learning something new every day with StreamYard. Right now, I added as an additional step. One thing that I will say is I will also mention the logic behind it as well. I will say like this and hexagon, these are hexagon tiles, and we will implement hexagon tiles component. So with prompting, there are some best practices. One of them is most important is the new information is on the top. What you don't want to put it into a paragraph. You want to actually put it into, you can think of markdowns in a list on what you expect. And from most important to least important. So AI can keep the context window with proper information so it can develop what you expect from it directly. All right. So right now I will continue writing what I have. Hexagon tiles. Each hexagon tile will have a color presentation of the question's difficulty. The hexagon design has a shadow inside it. I will just split this later on. Make sure to keep that shadow regardless of the tile color. So first of all, let me go up. So here are the spec specifications of the tile component. So first, each hexagon tile will have a color representation. Now, on the representation of the question's difficulty, the hexagon design has a shadow inside it. And after 2, we have 3. And afterwards, what else we can think of? Like we have the hexagon design, we have everything in place. And the hexagon tile will have a click and hover state on it. Click will open a window and hover will show a tooltip sort of element to give information about it. So this way we can actually pass down this information from outside as well. And I don't want to think about the board. I'm still thinking about the tile. And yes, let me mute myself really quickly. And
one of the other things when I look through the design spec, okay, we spent some time thinking about what the game might look like. The tiles have got different colors, as you said, for different levels of difficulty. They hover so that gives you cue to the player to know which tiles they can play. And there's some audio feedback to make it more tactile. But we also have this concept of having like these icons, these like images that will also superimpose on the tiles, which will add the element of strategy. So it might be, for example, that you can play a joker, which will, before you play a tile, which is used as a multiplier. There might be one which basically is a random dice that gives you either a positive outcome or a negative outcome. There could be a time icon which gives you more time if you answer a question, that kind of thing. So we want to also feed that into the specification of the tile.
besides the overlay logic, though, like besides having an overlay image or overlay visual component, I don't see anything extra about it because this component should not know about Joker logic or anything at all. So in here, we will say add an overlay component that can be an icon or an image